25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Happy Veterans Day. That gives you a clue as to whether you're listening to a live show or not. If it's Veterans Day where you are, then you're listening to a live show, and your calls are important. John Fuller is here this Veterans Day. John is an attorney. I'm sure you know that already, from the law firm of Fuller & Fuller here in Ocala. The show is called Legally Yours, and John is here to answer your legal questions. The number is 622-9622. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Larry, and good morning to all of our listeners. And most certainly, we want to offer a heartfelt thank you from my wife and partner Janet and I at Fuller & Fuller and all our staff to all of our veterans who are with us today and their families and loved ones as we have a day to appreciate what they have contributed, their service, their sacrifice to our country, and what that means. And a show, Legally Yours, dealing with our legal principles, our legal system, and the protections that the legal system gives us, and its very existence is a result of our form of government, and our government's security is dependent upon the strength and talent and initiative and sacrifice of the men and women in our armed services. It is interesting to note that while we celebrate it today as Veterans Day, which it was designated by Congress as Veterans Day, I believe in 1954. If I'm wrong, I'm sure someone will correct me.
Right.
But before that, it was known as Armistice Day because in World War I, at 11 a.m. on the 11th day of the 11th month, the armistice or ceasefire was signed, and the guns went silent, and one of the most devastating wars that it wiped out an entire generation of young men on the continent, because the technology of warfare with poisonous gas and automatic weapons such as the Browning machine gun and the German equivalent would shoot 600 to 800 rounds per minute, and the tactics were to march wave after wave after wave of young men and humanity across the field known as no man's land between barbed wire, obstacles, artillery, poison gas, etc., into this onslaught of bullets, and they literally were just decimated because the generals and the tactics that they were using had been developed in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and so forth and so on. Fortunately for the Americans who got into the war late, General John Pershing, who was in charge of the American Expeditionary Force that went over there, refused to allow the American troops to be fed into the French and British lines piecemeal and slaughtered, as had been the practice for years before America got in the war. And he insisted on American autonomy, a designated sector, if you will, for them to operate in and to use their own tactics, strategy, etc. And that was a blessing, and I kind of personalized that because both my father and grandfather were combat veterans of World War I.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow. Actually, godfather, and my godfather was a physician, a medical doctor, and he earned the Purple Heart and what is now known as the Silver Star. It was converted to that in the 30s. It was like the Silver Certificate or something. It was the third highest award that can be given for bravery in face of danger in conflict with an armed enemy. And so I have a lot of respect and a lot of appreciation. My family used to celebrate November the 11th because my father was due to go over the top go out of the front lines into no man land on that date.
Oh, wow.
He had been there.
Oh, wow.
He had been taken back out of the front lines into the rest area, and they worked their way up from the third line to the second line. Then you went to the front line, and from there you did another one of these attacks, of which the mortality and morbidity rate was astronomical.
Wow.
And he was he found out at 11 o'clock when the French started ringing church bells and celebrating. I saw on the internet yesterday, if you Google it, I don't know if it's still on it or not, but they had a very rudimentary type of sound system, sonography, that was set up with microphones at different angles where they could record the sound of artillery, and with multiple microphones they could triangulate that and locate the German batteries.
Oh, wow,
and
really?
So they had printed on the internet yesterday, on Google, on somewhere on this, they had a strip of the tape where they developed it. It took several days to develop the tape after they did it, and they didn't do it often, but that was okay because the artillery was so large and so immobile that it couldn't be moved quickly anyway.
Okay, right.
But up until 11 a.m., you can see the waves. It's kind of like an electrocardiogram.
Right.
You can see the waves of the artillery being discharged until 11 a.m., and then all of a sudden it is a complete flat line of silence. It is a very impressive thing.
Isn't that interesting?
To look at.
Wow.
So I feel very special. My father would have a big barbecue, invite all the neighbors, the people that worked for him, worked with him, his customers. Sometimes they had 100, 150 people at this outdoor barbecue.
Wow.
He did every year
Wow.
on November 11th with fireworks and celebration, because he felt like had it not been for that 11 a.m. Ceasefire, he probably would have not made it, because not many people came back from the front in one piece.
Wow, that was a great story.
So thank you to all of our service people, and give me if you would indulge me with this, and if our listeners would, it's when we get to like the end of the show, give me a 1 minute heads up, if you can, because I simply want to end the show today with 1 minute of silence. I've been practicing law 42 years in a great country, and I've been doing this show 4 years. Folks don't need me to talk the last minute, and our show ends at 11 a.m.
Okay.
So I would like to end this show with a moment of silent reflection, prayer, if anyone chooses to thank our country for the sacrifices. In fact, Armistice Day was only to celebrate an original inception and up until it became Veterans Day for those veterans who had given their lives to our country. Then it was broadened for all veterans everywhere, alive or not. But either way, I want to make sure that we do our part to thank them.
You have a phone call. Good morning. You're on the air with John Fuller.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you,
Thank
sir?
you for your service. And one of the things that is important to veterans in this country is that Congress some years ago passed the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Act.
Yes.
Which means that no creditor may institute collection proceedings on a person who has been deployed to a combat area until after 180 days after they return.
I understand that. I've not had a lot of hands-on dealing with it. They have also given protection in the family law domestic field that someone cannot institute and complete a dissolution of marriage action unless they assert in the petition that neither party is in the military service or would be barred by the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Act. So there are a number of areas that it affects. I'm not an expert in it, but you're right.
We'll take a little break and we'll be right back. John is live this 11th day of the 11th month, and he has given us an opportunity to, at the 11th hour, have a minute of silence. So we'll do that in about 15 minutes. Right now, we'll take a break. Your calls are welcome, 622-9622.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Low clouds and areas of fog will give way to partly sunny skies today in this Veterans Day holiday with a high of 81 to 85. Tonight will be mainly clear with lows ranging from the upper 50s and a few inland spots to the mid to upper 60s along the coast. Tomorrow mostly sunny and quite warm, high 84 to 88. For Friday, plenty of sunshine and pleasant, the high 82 to 86. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Ocala Aviation now has opportunities for flight instructors.
Wait, hold on, Brad, is this correct? You're looking for instructors, not students?
Actually, we're looking for both.
Well, that's descriptive.
Well, I need flight instructors because we're now affiliated with a major university and can offer 4-year degrees. Plus, we're also approved to work directly with VA students.
Okay, so a degree in what, and what's a VA student?
Well, it's a bachelor's degree in aeronautics, which includes a commercial pilot's license, and there's financial aid available. By VA students, I mean veterans. They now have access to new benefits to pay for flight training.
Okay, so you have new opportunities for new students. What about the instructor side of it?
Well, with new students, we need more instructors.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
So, if anyone out there is a flight instructor, I want to encourage them to come see me. And if they're not an instructor but have their commercial license, we can help them become an instructor.
So they get their instructor license and have a job too.
Exactly.
So you got a lot going on. The VA, the college, and now hiring instructors and future instructors too.
Yep. So now can we get the commercial started?
Already ahead of you.
Call Brad to get your adventure started today at Ocala Aviation, 861-7484.
Whether you're building it up or knocking it down, get it done, rent it now. Sunbelt Rentals is here to make your job a little easier. Our knowledgeable staff will help you find the right equipment for any job, big or small. Did you know that Sunbelt Rentals carries heaters, air conditioners, generators, lighting, traffic control, and so much more? So whether you're building it up or knocking it down, we've got the equipment you need. Get it done, rent it now. And right now, for a limited time, you can have it for less. Just by mentioning this ad, if you rent it Friday afternoon, you can keep it the whole weekend and only pay for one day. But this is a limited time offer, so stop into Sunbelt Rentals today, Northwest 27th, just a quarter mile east of I-75. For more information, just give us a call, 352-369-9101. 352-369-9101. Sunbelt Rentals. Get it done, rent it now. 352-369-9101.
12 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Wednesday. It is Veterans Day, and it is November 11th. If it's November 11th on your calendar, then you're listening to a live show. John Fuller is here from the law firm of Fuller & Fuller here in Ocala. And your questions are an important part of the show, so feel free to call in. And if it's a Veterans Day type of a topic, I think that would be appropriate as well.
Well, I do too. It is a special day. We spent the first part of the show talking about it. If anyone has questions, I certainly don't want to diminish my enthusiasm to talk to our listeners. We have had some wonderful listeners over the 4 years that we've done this show, and I appreciate each and every one of them. If you are a loved one or a family member have been involved in a serious accident of any kind, and we can help you at the law firm of Fuller & Fuller, please call us. Our number is 352-547-4292. You can find out all about our law firm by going to our website at ocala-lawyer.com. My partner and wife, Janet Fuller, who was a registered nurse for 7 years at Shands Teaching Hospital, handles Social Security disability cases, and if you or a friend or family have been denied Social Security disability claim and would like to have that matter looked into about filing an action with an administrative law judge, that is what Janet Fuller does, and I certainly she and I welcome your calls to the office to talk to her about Social Security disability. There's a lot of people who have retired to Florida.
Right.
Discovered that with the economy and all the things that we faced in the last few years, it was hard to make ends meet. And they wanted to work, and they tried to go back to work, and they found out that having worked hard all their lives had caused cumulative injuries and problems that prohibited them from being able to work. And Social Security disability is kind of one of your last remedies to help, and so it's a very specialized area, one that I personally do not handle, but that's the one that Janet focuses her practice on. And if you have questions, she would be happy to talk with you, especially if you've been denied. That's a critical stage, I understand, for someone to take the next step.
Yeah,
and if you need help doing that, Janet is very knowledgeable in Social Security disability law.
And you have a phone call. Let's take that call. Good morning. You're on there with John Fuller.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning. Thanks for calling.
And thank you very much for your comments in the first part of the program. That was very appropriate, and it was wonderful to hear that. And it's a sad day for everybody, all of us Americans, but it's a proud day at the same time.
I totally agree.
I have a question. My daughter-in-law was recently. She was at a birthday party at a restaurant, and there was a casual drinking along with eating and dining and so on and so forth. After the party was over, leaving the restaurant, she was pulled over because one of her headlights was out, and the officer said he detected alcohol on her breath. And my stepdaughter said she was just casually drinking, only had a few drinks along with a lot of food, and she certainly didn't think she was impaired in any way, but he wanted to do a sobriety test on her, and she was completely confused, and she says, "Can I call my lawyer and get some advice on what I should do?" And the officer at this time said, "No, you can't. You have to make that decision on your own without a lawyer's advice." Is this a true statement?
Yes, it is. When you accept your Florida driver's license, it is a privilege to drive, not a right. And on the back, if there's probable cause to believe that you might have been driving while under influence of medication or alcohol to the extent that your normal faculties are impaired, and the basis for the stop was a headlight that was out, even though that appeared to be irrelevant to any kind of aberrant driving. You do not have the right. The right to counsel does not attach at that stage of the law enforcement's investigation. I have had that happen in many cases over the years. I have literally done hundreds of DUI defense cases. The last major case I tried was a DUI manslaughter, vehicular homicide case, very tragic accident. And the answer to your question is yes. Your daughter would have to take the field sobriety tests, asking to consult with a lawyer. The police officer was correct in saying she didn't have that right, and if she refused to take the intoxilizer, the sobriety tests, that would be something that they could use as evidence against her. Do you know if she took an intoxilizer test? Did she blow in a tube and determine what her breath alcohol level was?
No, what she did, she just did not take the test. She refused it because she thought she was nowhere near being over the limit, and she just decided that I'm not going to do it, and she didn't.
Yeah, well, she definitely needs to consult with a criminal defense lawyer about her defenses, because there are multiple levels to that. Just the refusal to take the chemical breath test could be considered a violation of the implied consent law of the state of Florida. And if the police officer had probable cause to make the stop and probable cause to believe that she may be operating a motor vehicle under the influence to the extent that her normal faculties are impaired, she has very short timeline to request an administrative hearing, or her license will be automatically suspended. So there are two levels there. You've got a criminal defense level and you've got an administrative law level, and she definitely needs to consult with a criminal defense lawyer as quickly as possible. And she should not talk about the case with anyone except her criminal defense lawyer, who's bound by the privilege to protect her interests in the case. And so I recommend that strongly. Hello, how are you folks?
Thank you very much for your answer.
Yes, you're very welcome. Thanks for calling. Good luck to your daughter.
Does she get in more trouble by not taking the test, or?
Well, your punishment is they automatically suspend your license for a year, regardless of whether you're guilty or innocent of being intoxicated. And if you go to trial, the refusal to take the intoxilizer test can be admissible in evidence as an admission of guilt.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's good to know. Yeah.
So it's, and it's a dilemma. I get that question all the time because the intoxilizer machine isn't perfect. There aren't any machines that are perfect.
Sure. Right,
and I've had them determined that they were not kept in the appropriate controlled environment. You have to look to see if the operator is properly licensed and is his certificate current. They have to maintain and calibrate the intoxilizer machine. If it is not done, it's good technology and it works and they use it in science. But I've often asked juries when they're asked to weigh the reliability of that test about in medicine, when we go in to have surgery and they do a diagnostic test on us, the machine that does the diagnostic test is calibrated for accuracy before each test. The state of Florida, the Florida Administrative Code, only requires that the intoxilizer machine be calibrated once every calendar month, which could be, depending upon when it was last calibrated and tested, almost a 2-month period. We had humidity, we have moisture. My goodness, if you don't believe of humidity, walk outside in Florida this week, and is it in a controlled room? Other issues, they have to watch the individual to make certain that he has not belched regurgitated stomach fluids up into their oral cavity. Because you don't want to get the alcoholic beverage vapors that's in the mouth. You're trying to get it from deep lung air, which is called alveolar air, and then the machine makes a scientific presumption that on average the ratio between the concentration in the breath in the deep lung air and the concentration in the blood is 2,100 to 1, and then the machine calculates that as an average for all individuals. So you're getting already lumped into an averaging group, and that may or may not be the best way to conduct a scientific test. So there's a lot of challenges to that machine. The people who operate it now, they are very, very precise about wanting to call it an instrument. I've spent 40 years defending those cases. I still refer to it as a machine. And one of the questions I ask jurors when they're prospectively going to serve is, would they look at the evidence, the totality of the evidence, and keep it in mind that this is an apparatus that can malfunction. And then I ask them, have you ever had a fussy lawnmower or outboard motor that wouldn't start right? This is still just a machine.
That's why you do what you do. John, we wanted to give you that 1 minute of silence.
Very good. To our loyal listeners, what I'd just like to do, with your permission, is to end this show now with a moment of silent respect for all of our veterans who have passed in service of our country and for their family and loved ones.
Thank you, John.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Carmen Roberts. Many on social media seem to feel that New Jersey Governor Chris Christie won the early session in last night's GOP debates.
Our real adversary, the person that we need to defeat, is Hillary Clinton. And so I was going to make sure I spent my time last night letting the American people who are watching know that I have a plan to beat her and that I'm the best person to be on that stage next September to prosecute the case against Hillary Clinton and to win back the White House for our party.
Christie speaking on Fox and Friends. Last night's debates were hosted by the Fox Business Network and the Wall Street Journal. And in Colorado, a blizzard warning.
I mean, this is the first snow for a lot of these places, as late as it might be. It would have caused the normal winter storm type delays, air delays, travel delays. Since it's the first one, it probably is more inconvenient than a normal storm. Meteorologist Jim Hayes with the National Weather Prediction Center. Total snowfall expected outside the Denver area, more than a foot. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Meet Vince. Vince hurt himself mountain biking on Saturday.
Because weekend warrior.
Because noob.
Hey.
Vince is supposed to host an important presentation, but he's not going anywhere in that cast. What should he do?
Rhetorical question.
Vince should try GoToMeeting, the simple way to host meetings online, complete with video conferencing and screen sharing. Send out a meeting link and anyone can join from any computer, tablet, or smartphone. Just takes a click.
Where do I